Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Ready to start another great race in the Precision Racing League. Green flag flies, we're underway. Side by side, door-to-door contact. Incredible action here in the PRL. And they come together. After all the fighting, it ends in tears.
Thursdays, the Precision Racing League racing their production car MX5 and GR86 series, followed by Super Formula later on in the evening. We will go to the production car action first here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. What a round this is going to be. Super challenge around this classic American road racing circuit. Looking forward to bringing you all the action here on RaceSpotTV in the hands of myself, Reese Gardner, and Mark Kalin back alongside me in the commentary box. Big thanks to Ewan O'Leary for filling in last week. And Hugo Luis, of course, behind the scenes, pressing all the buttons and making everything happen. Mark, we go back once again to MX5 and GR86, two championships that are mighty tight with plenty of drivers looking to get the results up for grabs.
Yeah, very tight with the points indeed in both of these championships. Only few points separating the leaders, I think, in both categories, and it's been an impressive fight all season long. Can't wait to see what they have in store for us tonight here in the hills of Laguna Seca.
Indeed, we got 3 rounds remaining in the season, and it is an American quadrilogy to round things off. We're at Laguna Seca, of course, for round 6. We go to Long Beach, Willow Springs, and Virginia to round off the season at the end of August. It's going to be an incredible sequence of circuits to end off this championship, which is incredibly close in the GR86s. Andrew Sharp and Brett Gardner, they both had some very interesting results in previous rounds, and they are equal on points for the championship lead. Gardner's teammate Jake Cummings is equal with Jeremy Rogers and Matthew Wyckoff, so no matter where you are in the top 5, there is some battle to be had. Maxime David and Jean-Sébastien Bedard are only separated by a single point for 6th place, and Ian Brown, Keith Gwinnett, and Kevin Berquist have got a lot to fight for as well, only separated by 2 points there at the end. In the teams, Tech Sport Academy by AMS, that's Brett Gardner and Jake Cummings' team. They are a long way in the lead over Valhalla Motorsports, so it's not quite as close as it is in the Drivers' Championship, but I guess Tech Sport's going to be looking to consolidate their championship lead this round. But even if they both retired, the team's championship would still be truly in their hands at the moment. In the MX5s, it's also close. Lincoln Fox and Michael Chase are only separated by 4 points at the top of the standings for Itasca Point Green and Itasca Point Blue, respectively. Pat Labrosse not too far behind either. Peter Moller, a very consistent competitor, solidly in the top 4, but Austin Bartlett Chase starting to catch him up after some really good results in the previous rounds. And David Barkley, Aaron Myers, only separated by 2 points from Andrew Gilliland. Nathan Miller and Jake Mackey 43 and 42 points respectively. Itasca Point Green is currently leading the MX5 team standings, and again, it looks like a gap that's pretty much unassailable here in the late stages of the season. We'd have to have some incredibly bad results for Itasca Point Green in order for that to change any. Selpic Precision Racing MX5 are all the way back on 192. So it really is the Itasca Point show in the MX5 category. It's a fantastic sequence of leagues throughout the week at the Precision Racing League, and it's brought to you by the following sponsors. First and foremost, Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products. You just need to use the Precision5 coupon code at checkout. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount there as well, using the same code at checkout, Precision5. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. Moradness.com, also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. MrHedge.co.uk. He also posts a weekly roundup of screenshots from all of the events at PRL at the end of the week on the Discord. And finally, get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. They're everywhere you can think of: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Threads. Well, now we get into the action for GR86 and MX5. It's a very foggy Laguna Seca out there at the moment, Mark. We have relative humidity of 100%, and man, it's a very cool track as well. Only 21 degrees Celsius. It's actually fallen down to 20 as I was finishing that sentence. 68 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you in Freedom Land. Very overcast indeed, which means those cool temperatures will probably play havoc with these road spec tires on the formation lap and the first couple laps of the race.
Yeah, definitely gonna give out some more grip for these tires on these GR86s and MX5s. Gonna allow them to take these corners a little bit faster than they normally would, with it being such an overcast and kind of just a dismal evening for this race. But nonetheless, I think it's going to provide some excitement as these drivers have done well in hand before. It doesn't matter what the weather is; they're going to put on a show regardless. And I can't wait to see the drop of the green and see what happens out there on the track.
Indeed, I can't wait either, but we're going to have to wait at least 3.5 minutes because that's how much is left in qualifying. Maxime David is currently on top in the GR86s with Lincoln Fox on top in the MX5s. There's only 4 of them that have set times so far. Still waiting on a time from Peter Moller in the 997, but Lincoln Fox and Michael Chase, as we said, only separated by 4 points in the MX5 Championship. Can Moller do anything to be a spanner in the works there? Michael Chase improves over Pat Labrosse for second, and Moller's first time is on the board. It's a 137.6. That's only 0.2 off Austin Bartlett Chase, so there's potential for him to improve on his next lap. Andrew Sharp, meanwhile, equal on points in the GR86 Drivers' Championship versus Brett Gardner. Was still waiting on a more representative time from him, trying to break into the 1 minute 35 second bracket. But all things considered, his qualifying time isn't that far off what he said in practice, so he might be at the very limit of his capabilities here. We'll have to wait and see if he pulls something out.
Yeah, and I noticed during practice, Reese, Graham Wildman was making some fun with Andrew Sharp there, and if I can get our producer to bring attention to the rear bumper of Graham Wildman's car real quick. Just a little funny comment on it from if Andrew happens to be behind Graham during this race. It says, "Stay away, Andrew Sharp."
Righto. So Graham Wildman expecting to be in front of Andrew tonight, I think, is the crux of that remark. Well, we'll come to the end of the lap here at Laguna Seca for Andrew Sharp, and well, he's taking a bit of a compromise line there down the straight. He's trying to shorten the run to the start-finish line, and it's not going to be an improvement for him on that lap. And he's looks like he's done with the qualifying session at the moment. Jean-Sébastien Bedard in the team with Maxime David. These two have had a really good run in the last few rounds. Some fantastic performances. Interesting to see if they can capitalize on their increased pace in the final rounds, as Lincoln Fox will negotiate the last couple of corners here in the final few minutes. Lincoln has been one of the form drivers in the MX5s who have had some very close races over the course of this season, maximizing the exit from the final corner. And we'll have to wait and see if this is a representative lap. It looks like it will be a 36.0. My God, that is a fast time. That's good enough for third overall.
Yeah, not a lot of time difference between the MX5s and the GR86s again this week. So it should be some entertaining inter-class battles going out there on the track this evening, which is always exciting to see, trying to watch the one class get through the other class, and can potentially cause some mayhem, as well as we see the back bumper there of Graham Wildman. Leave us alone, Andrew. Leave us alone.
Yeah, well, Wildman will be starting ahead of Andrew Sharp here today, so certainly going to be a lot of purpose rendered to that message on the rear bumper. Qualifying is over, and it's now time to get into the 35-minute race here. No pit stops. It's just a straight-up sprint all the way through the next half an hour. And starting on pole in the GR86s will be Maxime David, the no-team team. Of course, I got the team name wrong, incidentally, with Brett Gardner, joint championship leader, starting on second place, the front row. Jean-Sébastien Bedard and Graham Wildman in third and fourth, with Andrew Sharp and Keith Gwinnett fifth and sixth. In 7th place will be Matthew Wyckoff with Kevin Burquist on the 4th row. Cummings and Logan Carasimo making his first start this season in 10th place. Ewan Brown and Aidan Irvin will round out the 12, and Evan Henneman is going to be the last driver on the GR86 grid, not setting a time in qualifying. Same for Aidan Irvin. In the MX5s, it's Lincoln Fox and Michael Chase. The Itasca Point Blue cars locking out the front row. Sorry, no, it's Itasca Point Green and Itasca Point Blue on the front row. And then the reverse order with Pat LaBrosse and Austin Bartlett Chase in 3rd and 4th. Peter Moller, the last of our 5 MX5s, taking to the start. But they're all very close on pace, so I'm looking forward to a very tight battle with the MX5s, especially as they will likely start making their way through the GR86s at some point during the race. So once again, the track is very cool, only 70 Fahrenheit. It hasn't changed all that much from qualifying, and I think at least on the first lap, the drivers will be struggling with cold tyres. They'll have to wait a lap or two for them to heat up, but once they do, Mark, those cool conditions will make those cars a bit easier to drive than they would be in hot conditions.
Yeah, for sure. It will definitely be a lot more stable. But even with the low car count for the MX5s, we've been used to that for the last few weeks, unfortunately. But still, even with the low car count, they are not afraid to put it out there on the line and put on a heck of a show for us, and it's been super exciting to watch. And same with the GR86s up at the front of the field. Seen many incidents 2 weeks ago between your top 3 or 4 drivers, and it was very entertaining to watch. Hopefully Laguna Seca can be the same way.
Yep, here's hoping. Jake Cummings starting a bit back in the GR86 field at the moment, 9th place for him. So the challenge is on for him to find his way up through the field and join his teammate Brett Gardner, who has a lot of pressure behind him from Andrew Sharp. They are neck and neck for the championship, those two drivers, so Cummings will want to help out his teammate here with a potentially good start. Long way behind though. It seems like only 10 of our 13 GR86s in the server will take to the start here today. And those blimp shots are certainly going to be difficult to pick out the cars in this very soupy fog that we see here at Laguna Seca. Well, this circuit is a classic for a reason, Mark. So many incredible corners here, not least the corkscrew and the dive down to the final corners. We're going to see some good racing there, but there's also a lot of potential for mistakes. There's a lot of gravel lining the racetrack.
Yes, and I have a sneaking suspicion that we may see an incident take place in that ever so famous corkscrew section of the track, whether it be someone overshoot the corner and run wide, maybe someone try to dive bomb somebody and spin them out. Who knows what it could be, but I have a sneaking suspicion something may happen there.
Yeah, indeed. They'll coast through it at a very sedate pace here on the formation lap. Only one formation lap here, and the MX5s will try their best to leave a gap here and just allow both classes to sort themselves out in the opening laps. But we saw how fast Lincoln Fox was in qualifying. I think with it by the halfway point of the race, we're going to be seeing those MX5s start to catch up to the back of the GR86 field. Maxime David and Brett Gardner on the front row, negotiating the final corner now and getting ready for the call of the green flag. Maxime is going to slow them down and then jump on the power. The field together as the green flag flies, and we are racing in the GR86 class immediately. Brett Gardner diving in behind Maxime David. He wants to stymie the run from Jean-Sebastien Bedard. Andrew Sharp already aggressive, getting on the racing line and trying to pass the no team car of Bedard for 3rd place, but unsuccessful coming out of the first turn as the MX5s now get off to their start as well.
And through the final first 2 corners, it looks like Austin Bartlett Chase getting a little bit squirrely out of that exit there and had to recover a little bit. He'll drop down to 4th, and Pat LaBrosse goes up to 3rd.
Yeah, good job.
Keep it all straight though.
Yeah, indeed. Good job to keep it straight. The MX5s are notoriously hard to drive on cold tyres as the GR86s make their way up to turn 7, and the Mario Andretti straightaway This is going to be interesting to see. Up the hill they come, and it's still incredibly close in the top three. Sharp, crucially, has gotten by Wildman, so he won't be seeing that rear bumper, as you pointed out earlier, Mark. Through there for the first time, Jake Cummings passes. Matthew Wyckoff on the way into the corkscrew, but contact on the exit. He'll have to slot back in behind. That was a good recovery on the sand.
Yeah, very lucky he did not lose that car. Was able to maintain control, but did not take long for an incident to come through that corkscrew.
Yeah, not long at all, but there was a bit less chaos than I would have imagined. A clean first lap for the most part in the GR86s, and Maxime David is solidly in the lead at the moment, but Brett Gardner is pressuring him, and Bedard is starting to leave Andrew Sharp behind. Graham Wildman stands a chance of making a move here, but he's not going to dive out at the first turn to make it. So for the time being, the GR86s stay nice and stable. They're still in the tyre warm-up phase at the moment. Laguna Seca, a pretty short track by comparison to some of the ones we've raced on this season, and combine that with the cool conditions, we're going to see a little bit of sliding in the GR86s if they can't get their lines right. Wildman still very aggressive in the orange car there. He's right on the back of Andrew Sharp for fourth place. Matthew Wyckoff right there as well. So let's see if the Soy Boys Racing car will be able to get it done at the corkscrew.
As they come through the kink, it's a very fast corner, very easy to get it wrong and go wide and wreck your day very early. But it looks like everyone manages to get through as they run back up the hill towards the corkscrew again. Graham looking to make a move on Andrew, and he's going to think better of it this time.
Yeah, I think just slowly building up the courage to make that move. But when Graham Wildman has courage pumping through his veins, there's quite a lot of it to be had. Let's see if he can get it done at the final corner. It's a bit too far back to get it done for the time being. While we were looking at all of that, looks like Jean-Sébastien Bedard has lost a little bit of time to Brett Gardner for second place. There's a couple of car lengths between them now, and Gardner will try and build up the aggression for a move on Maxime David. Gardner wants as many points as possible at this point in the season. Remember, he's on equal on points with Andrew Sharp for the Drivers' Championship, so any extra points he can get will be to his benefit coming into the final 3 rounds.
And Graham was able to make the move into turn 1 on Andrew Sharp, so move Graham up to P4, and Andrew has to look at that very uninviting bumper.
Indeed he does. Matthew Wyckoff might stand a chance of finding his way past as well in the Valhalla Motorsports machine. All getting on the gravel on the way into turn 6. Not the ideal line. You want to try and preserve some grip on those outside tires when you're turning in for that very fast left-hand bend. And I'll be interested to see if there's anyone who hits that red anti-cut curb on the inside of turn 7 tonight. Very notorious section of racetrack there.
Yeah, and if you just ever so slightly get too far left and hit that curb, it's likely to send you straight off into the dirt and possibly into the wall.
Yep. There's good space in the runoff areas here at Laguna Seca, but not much of a chance to slow down if you make a mistake. And Wildman was pressuring hard in the background there. He's been pushing, and he's trying to catch up to the top 3 here. We'll see if he's successful once these lap times come onto the board. Our leader, Maxime David, setting a 1:35.9. That's the fastest lap of the race so far. Wildman is faster than Jean-Sébastien Bedard in third by just a 1/10 of a second, but it looks like Brett Gardner still very much in lockstep with Maxime David at the front.
Yeah, Gardner just trying to pressure Maxime possibly into just making a mistake. Doesn't look to be close enough to make any moves at the moment, but definitely wants to stay locked tight to that bumper as close as he can. And hopefully, in his eyes, Maxime will make just enough of a mistake that Brett can get squeezed on by.
Yes, It'll take a bit of time for that to eventuate, though, because the gap is quite large at the moment. And look at Brett Gardner's run out of turn 7 there. He gets a much better run up the hill than Maxime David does, but he's still not close enough for a move into the corkscrew this time. We've seen how dominant Brett Gardner was in the early stages of the season, but he's been struggling to get consistent wins throughout the middle phase of the season here, and big part of that is why he's equal on points with it. Andrew Sharp at the front of the field. Here we go then. Look at the wheel work from Brett Gardner as he makes his way through the final corner. He has nailed the exit there. That is a fantastic run down the start-finish straight for Brett Gardner, and this is the move that he'll be looking for into turn 1. He's on the outside, but you can make moves around the outside at the first proper corner here at Laguna Seca. He's ahead at the turn-in point, but Maxime David holding strong on the inside, and he'll keep the lead for now.
Yeah, great defense from Maxime. Didn't have to push out wide there. And unfortunately, an incident for Peter Muller in the Soltec Precision Racing MX5. Looks like he just looped it around. He's able to keep it going. But Brett Gardner right on the heels of Maxime, and just unfortunately was not ahead far enough to make the move complete.
Yeah, all of our 15 cars that started the race are still running at the moment. So for Peter Muller, as we take a look at what happened to him here, looks like he was a little too aggressive on trailing the brakes into the final corner there, it seems. The MX5 very easy to spin around early on in the run, but there should be a little bit of extra heat in those tires now, and we'll see if he can get some consistency going and hope for some mistakes from the Itasca Point cars at the front of the MX5 field. The GR86s, meanwhile, Andrew Sharp, Brett Gardner, my apologies, trying his best to get up the inside of the third last turn here. He is right on the back of Maxime David now, and this could be the issue for David that induces a mistake. Gardner once again, fantastic run through the final corner. He compromised Maxime David by showing the nose. It's the psychological game that Brett Gardner is almost going to win for the time being. Side by side on the way through the first corner, down to the Andretti hairpin at turn 2, and Gardner is ahead. David going to push into the braking zone, but he'll have to let Gardner go. Now he's back with his teammate Jean-Sébastien Bedard. They might be able to form a two-pronged attack on the Tech Sport car.
And Jean-Sébastien had to back out of it a little bit as Maxime went a little too wide through the first 2 turns, and that's going to compromise his time from Brett Gardner, and hopefully for him, Brett Gardner does not skate away from him.
Yeah, well, once Brett Gardner gets into the lead, he usually stays there. So we'll see if the no-team team can pull together into a team and find themselves a 1-2 finish potentially. They've still got 2 cars in the top 3, so it's going to be some solid points for them. Whoa. And that's a big mistake there for Bedard. He had a bit of a problem there at turn 7. Gardner's teammate Jake Cummings still in 7th place. He's lost touch with Matthew Wyckoff, who made the move some time ago, and so Gardner doesn't have any help up at the front of the field. This is what Cummings has to deal with. We have Keith Gwinnett and Kevin Berquist right behind him. Cummings, I think, struggling for consistency here in California.
Yeah, Keith all over the rear end of that GR86 ahead of him. That Valhalla racing machine, showing the nose to him. Previous corner, gets right up on his bumper into the final corner. Is he going to have the run out of the exit? It does not appear so. It looks like Jake Cummings is going to have the better run and manage to survive with that position for another, at least, section of the track.
Yeah, some good exits from Jake Cummings, making sure that he can keep the position there. Let's see how the entry goes for Keith Gwinnett. Look at how far he trails the brakes into the corner, and Cummings will be looking in his mirrors now, trying to defend from Keith Gwinnett, who has the luxury of taking the full racing line into turn 3. Cummings is starting to fall under some massive pressure here. There was almost some overlap into the second right-hander, but on the inside, Jake Cummings getting the better run out. The battle for 7th is going off, and battle for 8th as well. Kevin Berquist taking advantage of Keith Gwinnett having to back out of that move. And now right on the back. And have a look at how close the MX-5s are already. The 48 of Lincoln Fox is moving into the rest of the field as Gwinnett is going to take an excursion into the gravel. Same for Kevin Bergquist, and I suppose Jake Cummings will be happy to see that.
Yeah, Lincoln Fox is only 2 seconds behind Jake Cummings. So, I mean, he's coming.
Yeah, that he is. Lincoln
No pun
Fox. Intended. Yeah, indeed. Lincoln Fox has been head and shoulders for the MX-5 pole position and really good on pace at the moment. He currently holds on to a solid gap for MX-5 P1, about 2.5, 2.6 seconds as things stand. Meanwhile, the battle continues on here for GR86 P7. Fox's last lap was a 37.2, and well, it was he was a solid half a second faster than all three of these cars on screen at the moment. So we're going to be seeing an MX-5 mixing it up with the GR86s here, and I wonder how that's going to change the face of this battle.
And Cummings just got a lot of that curb on the right-hand side of the track. That's going to allow Keith to move right up to the bumper coming down the straightaway here into the next corner. He's going to peek the nose to the inside. He's there. Contact is made.
Oh, just enough of a tap there to send Jake Cummings wide, and the move is made for Keith Gwinnett. And Cummings is going to have to stay behind through turn 7. It's a single line corner. They both run off, and Cummings is going to come back here, coming up the hill, inside at the corkscrew. We've seen some spectacular moves be made here in the past. Gwinnett's going to try to hold on. Cummings is very deep in there and sends Gwinnett off the racetrack. Gwinnett had to avoid getting run into, and he would have picked up a slowdown thanks to that. He is going to lose P7 and P8 as Lincoln Fox comes through, and Lincoln is now overall P9.
Man, what fantastic racing there.
Oh, Cummings! Cummings spins!
Oh, no.
Oh no, sorry, my apologies, I was looking at the wrong car. It's Logan Carasimo. Really sorry about that. I thought for a second I saw a red GR86. Oh, it has to be Cummings or Gardner, but it's Logan Carasimo who had a big issue coming out of the second last corner there. Just hit the curb on the inside and got unstable. Well, we will move on through to the second place battle here in MX-5. Michael Chase still holding on versus Pat Labrosse. The Itasca Point Green teammates seem to have nothing for Itasca Point Blues Lincoln Foxes. Yeah, just a bit too much of that anti-cut curb there for Logan Carasimo, and head on into the barrier as a result. He's come straight into the pits thanks to that, and he's going to be spending a lot of time getting that car repaired. Don't even know if he's going to be able to make it back out on track. Oh dear. Okay, so that's one big mistake for me out of the way now, Mark. Hopefully there's no more.
Oh, it just means you're human.
Yeah, so I like being reminded of that. Sometimes when I'm getting into the flow of commentary, I end up dissociating from reality, and if I make a mistake, it immediately snaps me right back. Well, the battle is continuing here between Chase and Labrosse. Labrosse wants that position. He'd love to get a P2, but got to remember that Michael Chase and Lincoln Fox are the two championship leaders in MX-5, so I don't know if Labrosse is going to want to pressure his teammate too much. We've still got a few rounds to go, so we're still at the point in the season where I think it would be acceptable to fight tooth and nail with your teammates, but we'll have to wait and see on that front.
Well, it depends on whether or not you want to win a championship, Reese. If you want to win the championship, you can't, whether they're your teammate or not, you can't let it slide. You got to go for every point you get.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, they'll keep stable for the time being. It looks like Labrosse is comfortable behind Chase for the time being. and still waiting on a mistake from Michael Chase, but doesn't look like that's going to be happening anytime soon. Meanwhile, the fighting continues here between Jean-Sébastien Bedard and Graham Wildman. Bedard has not had a good last few laps. He's been making a few errors and has fallen off the back of Maxime David and Brett Gardner, who are still fighting closely over the lead. Let's see if Wildman will be able to get the move done. Andrew Sharp with a very good recovery so far, and we'll see what he can do to take advantage of this battle. Evidently, the No Team car at the front of this fight is having trouble with consistency. And so if Wildman gets alongside, they cost each other time. That will be big points opportunity for Andrew Sharp.
Yeah, I just noticed riding on the roof of Andrew's car, saw the window whippers wiping across the screen there. He must think it's raining there. He's got a bug splatter going on his windshield. He needed a clear screen.
Yeah, indeed. The difficulty is when you're running so close behind another car, they're throwing up rubber and bugs and other detritus from the track, dirt and dust into your windscreen, and sometimes getting the windscreen wipers on is a good opportunity. Side MX5 while down bottom right. That's Pat Ross getting past Michael Chase. And Pat Ross runs second. Great move.
I think there might be a little bit of a check there for Pat Ross on my Chase.
Yeah, maybe a tiny bit of contact in the middle of the corner. So now the issue is for Chase. Can he get the move done again further on in the race? Yeah, we're already approaching the halfway point of this event, so the clock is rapidly ticking down. What can Michael Chase do to get back past Pat LaBrosse? Probably pressure him into a mistake like we just saw there. A little touch of the gravel here at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, again, these races are very short, only 35 minutes in length. So it doesn't take very long for it to be over in the blink of an eye as these two drive. Keeping it clean for now as they are teammates, but as time winds down with only 17 minutes left in the race, the aggression levels will start to go up and they will start to throw caution to the wind because we've seen it before. Ask me how I know.
Absolutely. This whole season has seen some really intense racing in both of our categories, and yeah, the MX5 field has dwindled quite a bit over the course of the season, but the intensity of the racing has not. Same for GR86s as well. Bedard still holding on to third, but Graham Wildman piling on the power. What little power there is to use in the GR86. No move up the inside to turn 6, or will there be? He's going to have a little look and try and unsettle Bedard. Is that enough to pressure the number 7 into a mistake? Not quite, but you never know. A bit of a good move through turn 7 will give Wildman the advantage coming into the corkscrew. Got to nail the power, got to get the run right up the hill, keep in the slipstream. What little there is to use here at the short straight coming up to the corkscrew. There's going to be no move up the inside, but through the diving airsbend at the corkscrew, and then the 9-story elevation change through turn 9. This is a beautiful circuit indeed. It is a driver's circuit through and through, which is probably why Wildman's enjoying himself so much.
It really is a very fun circuit to drive, as Wildman has another slight little look there, trying to make Bedard kind of think about it. But he is definitely not going to have the run out of the final corner to make a move down the straight. But again, yeah, very fun track to drive. For me personally, the scariest part of this track for me is that quick little kink leading up to the corkscrew. I'm always terrified I'm going to murder that anti-cut curve and it's going to send me off into the wall.
Yeah, same for me, as Jake Cummings, it looks like, is involved in the fight here with Kevin Bergquist. He's trying to hold on to the position. Keith Gwinnett now at the back of this fight. Cummings on the outside end of the hairpin and pushing a little bit wide. There is Kevin Bergquist, and around he goes. Jake Cummings doesn't react at all. He probably realized that was going to happen with how much he was squeezing him. So Keith Gwinnett will not be happy with how, Kevin Bergquist Bergquist will not be happy with how that's gone down, but there's one less car now for Jake Cummings to deal with as he tries to hold on to turn 7 by his fingernails. So gently does it on the way up to turn 7 then. I meant to say position 7 as we get the replay here. It's just a shame to see, you know, obviously it's double apex hairpin at turn 2, and Kevin Bergquist was just following the normal line through there, but Cummings squeezed him a little bit. Never know. PRL stewards might have something to say about that, but we'll have to wait for the race to conclude first. What matters is Jake Cummings has held on to P7, and Keith Gwinnett is going to dial up the aggression again. He'll be hoping that Cummings has been unsettled there, but considering his lack of reaction to the incident with Kevin Bergquist, I think Cummings is just in his own world at the moment.
Yeah, and Cummings had to take a defensive line there, so Gwinnett's going to have the better run out of the final corner. He's edging ever so closely to the rear bumper. He's going to give him a tap. He peeks the nose out to the outside, coming down the hill. He's going to stay there going into turn 1. Is he going to go for the pass? No, he's going to back out of it.
Oh, he's going to come back in the second phase of the corner. Maybe give Cummings a little tap at the second apex, but oh, wow, there is so much pressure on board here for Jake Cummings as Graham Wildman continues to pressure Jean-Sebastien Bedard. There's been a problem, I think, for Andrew Sharp. He's fallen right off the back of the battle now. He'll be hoping that these guys run side by side for a little bit longer so he can catch back up.
Yeah, Andrew must have had just a little bit of a wiggle somewhere as Graham making another abrupt move, trying to take the attention away from Bedard's focus out the front window. But it does not work in Graham's favor that time. And that's just going to allow Andrew to get a little bit closer to Graham.
Yeah, it will. Wildman having to back out on the run down through turn 9. Meanwhile, Cummings holding on again to Keith Gwinnett as Lincoln Fox is starting to make some pace on these guys as well, setting times that are more or less equal with Cummings and Gwinnett at the moment. And Keith getting a really good run through the second last corner. He's going to pressure him again. Let's see if there's a good run through the final corner once more for the number 33. Doesn't look like there will be. He took a slightly wider entry but couldn't quite nail the power like Jake Cummings did. The 95 will maintain position coming into the hairpin as we have under 12 minutes to go. I'd suspect that's around about 8 or 9 laps worth of racing that we have left here, and that's plenty of time for the likes of Keith Gwinnett to make the move. Same for Graham Wildman for third, and Maxime David for the lead of the race. That lead is still as close as it's ever been. There's only 0.3 of a second between Brett Gardner and Maxime David at the front, but keep an eye here on Jake Cummings as he's forced to go defensive into turn 6. Does Keith Gwinnett have it in him to get it done around the outside? Not quite. Jake Cummings a little bit deeper, and he's going to try and protect the inside on the exit, but look at him slipping through there, door to door, banging wheels, banging wing mirrors as well for Keith Gwinnett. He's going to get up the inside at turn 7. We don't often see cars running side by side through there, and that's exactly why. Here comes Lincoln Fox, and look at Jake Cummings. He is hard trying to keep this position. Man, no space at all being given between the drivers, but they still managed to make it through the next couple of corners. Cummings has lost P7. That was a great fight.
I think they were both purposely turning into each other up the hill there. That was crazy.
Yeah, just trying to keep each other straight, maybe. The GR86 has a notoriously... oh, no. What's happened to Cummings here? He's coming into the pits. I'm wondering if that's put him over the incident limit. He's got a black flag.
Oh, no.
That's a real shame.
Unfortunate for Jake. That was a fantastic battle we were witnessing. And just one too many caution points, incident points there for Jake.
Oh, Maxime David, meanwhile, trying for the lead here on Brett Gardner, side by side. Gardner probably would have heard news of Jake Cummings overcoming the incident limit there, and David off the circuit there. That's going to be another incident point for him. as Cummings is going to complete the drive-through penalty that iRacing assigns for exceeding the incident limit and comes back out all the way down in 9th place in GR86, 13th overall, just ahead of Peter Moller in the MX5s. But Maxime David is drawing up the pressure here in the last 10 minutes of the race on Brett Gardner. This is going to be a fantastic fight to the end if he can keep this up.
Yeah, and that's one of the things about this track, Reese. It's super fun to drive, but it is super inviting to overdrive the track limits, and makes it extremely easy to build up those off tracks and contact points. So you really got to be careful and mindful of that. And unfortunately, like we saw with Jake Cummings, it's just a little too. Maxime hard on the brakes into turn 1. Really sent it in there to try and make up a little bit of that time loss down the straightaway.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to Cummings, I think the real killer for him was the contact with Kevin Bergquist. That would have given him 4 incident points, because if you make slight contact with a car, it's initially 0x, but if the other car ends up spinning and losing positions, then that gets upgraded to 4 incident points. So I think Cummings would have been hoping for a little bit less than that.
Yeah, and it's just one of those unfortunate deals when you're racing this hard, this close together for this long. It's bound to happen at some point, unfortunately.
Yeah. Laguna Seca, very easy to rack up those incident points. Well, 2 big battles in GR86 at the moment, the lead, of course, and then in the bottom right, Graham Wildman chasing down Jean-Sébastien Bedard for P3. Wildman has been right on the back of Bedard this whole time, and Andrew Sharp's just been looking on in the background, hoping for something to happen between them. He'll end up losing the joint championship lead to Brett Gardner if the race were to end right now. But we still have almost 8 minutes worth of racing left to go here as Brett Gardner continues to lead across the start-finish line, the gap being about 0.6 of a second. And the question is, will he be able to run this to the end, this kind of pace? Brett still fastest car on the circuit at the moment, and Maxime David is trying his best to match his times. I think he's just relying on mistakes at the moment.
That, and I think he's overdriving the entries just a little too much. I think if he can just settle down on the entry and maximize his exits, I think he'll be able to run Brett down a little bit more effectively here. But still keeping it tight, and like you said, just he's still within reach. If Brett makes a slight mistake, he's right there.
Yeah, look at the exit as well from the both of them. They're keeping it nice and clean. Wildman still on the back here of the number 7, and he's diving into every single braking zone he can, but he's just not finding a way past. He's pressuring him, yes, and that is one way to get a move done. But I think at some point, Wildman's going to have to stick the nose out and try a move under brakes.
I agree completely with you there, Reese. I think these little quick motions from left to right or whatever to try and lose the focus of the driver ahead, I think it's going to have to be a little bit more extreme as time is running out, and he needs to get by.
Yeah, he definitely does. There's going to have to be one big dive at least, especially considering it seems Bedard has been holding up Wildman on this lap. Andrew Sharp is right there with them once again. This time around, fastest car on track was Maxime David, chasing Brett Gardner in the lead. The 2 leaders are well and truly back together. This might be the chance that Wildman is looking for meanwhile, but it is defensive from Bedard and diving to the inside. There's the move for Wildman, but he's overcooked it a little bit. Slight contact on the inside, sending Bedard wide, and Wildman is going to...
he has a slowdown.
Oh, he does. He got a slowdown a bit too much there, coming into the hairpin.
And you saw a flash of the lights from Wildman's car. He was not too happy with Sean chopping his nose after he made the move excuse me, to the inside going into turn 1 there.
Yeah, it was a very staunch defense from Jean-Sébastien Bedard. So now Wildman has to gather things up in the last 5 minutes and see if he can get that 4th place back at least from Andrew Sharp. So the battle for the lead. Brett Gardner Under pressure from Maxime David, as he has been all race long. Bedard was solid 0.2 of a second faster on the last lap, but Gardner's been able to hold on to that consistent pace here. He's just been driving well at the front.
Yeah, I'm looking at their 15-lap averages here, Reese, and there's only a 0.5 difference between the two over the course of 15 laps. That's just incredible pace from these two top drivers.
Yeah, some brilliant driving from both Brett Gardner and Maxime David, and Gardner gets the faster time again this time round, but by just over 0.1 of a second. It's very slim margins between these two at the front of our field. 4 minutes remain on the clock. I'm calling maybe 5 or 6 laps to go. We'll obviously find out very soon what the exact number is, but time rapidly running out for David to get it done. And meanwhile, looks like the MX5s have closed up again. Lincoln Fox has been unable to hold on to the pace that he showed at the start of the race, and now Pat Labrosse and Michael Chase are right with him. It's a top 3 fight between the Itasca Point cars again.
Well, this is about to get spicy.
Certainly is. Wonder if it's going to be jalapeno spicy or habanero spicy. We'll see how much heat these guys can tolerate. How much on the Scoville scale are you willing to go? Lincoln Fox setting a 139.8 on the last lap versus a 37.7 for Pat Labrosse. So obviously on the last lap, Lincoln Fox had to compromise himself somewhere. So let's see if he can get some of that pace back. He'll have the slight slipstream from Keith Gwinnett to deal with here and try and extend that gap. But Pat Labrosse and Michael Chase, they know how close they are in the championship. Itasca Point are basically locking in the team's championship at this stage. They are the only MX5 team that's consistently shown at every single round, aside from Peter Moller for Solpec Precision Racing. So now it's just a case of which of them is going to take the championship lead. I think if Fox finishes third or so, he will lose the championship lead, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. As far as fastest laps go, well, Pat Labrosse has the fastest lap in the MX5s at the moment at a 36.4. That's a solid 0.3 faster than Lincoln Fox could manage. So I think that extra point for fastest lap will work very well into Pat Labrosse's hands.
Yes, Maxime Davis making a look in on Brett Gardner here for the race lead, coming through the kink. Excuse me. And up the hill towards the corkscrew they go. I don't think Maxime's close enough for a move, and he's not going to go for one either. He's just going to take it easy through the corkscrew, and a little bit of oversteer on the exit there. Woo.
Yeah, it looked like he was offline coming through the left-hander at the corkscrew, and if you do that, then you're tight through the right, and there's a big dip right at the apex. If you don't have the wheel completely straight at that point and just making your way through the corner, then you're going to have a little snap. Have a look at that. Andrew Sharp still pressuring the back of Jean-Sebastien Bedard for third place, and Graham Wildman has come right back now. Let's see if Andrew Sharp will be able to hold on here. Remember, Sharp has the championship lead to think about. He is battling neck and neck with Brett Gardner at the tail end of this season. He needs every point he can possibly get. He wants to pass Bedard, but he'll have to deal with Wildman on his rear first.
And as they were coming across the line, Bernie was in fact holding the white flag, waving it across the track. So this is it. This is the last chance for these drivers to get any moves done.
Yep, last chance indeed. We're going to be seeing some very aggressive moves towards the end of the lap here. Bedard will keep a couple of car lengths here over Andrew Sharp. How hard is Graham Wildman going to push things in the orange machine? Very striking livery and very striking driver is Graham Wildman, but Andrew Sharp manages to nail the apex here and get a very good run on Bedard. As up to the corkscrew come our leaders. It's defensive for Brett Gardner. Aggressive on the brakes for Maxime David. He tried to send it, but it wasn't enough, and he's going to go across the gravel. And I think he will have lost enough touch with Brett Gardner that the Tech Sport Academy by AMS machine will have the full advantage coming into the final couple of corners. David had to try it, but Gardner was right there. A fantastic defense and a fantastic drive from our number 51, who will retake a clear championship lead coming out of this round with the win for Brett Gardner.
Brett Gardner with a masterclass of a race, as the battle for third is still on between Bedard, Sharp, and Wildman, but I think it's going to finish that way as no one's able to get a run on the other.
Yeah, looks like it. Well, now our attention is going to turn to the MX5s, the top three all together for Itasca Point. And Pat Labrosse super late on the brakes. He's flinging it into every corner here, trying to get as much speed as he can. He's not far up enough to make a move on Lincoln Fox, though, who qualified on pole, is going to get a position on the GR86 of Keith Gwinnett for overall places, but they're racing separately, and Lincoln Fox will take the win and extend his championship lead over Pat Labrosse and Michael Chase. Fantastic job from him. Kevin Berquist is going to come across the line in 8th place, with Jake Cummings in 9th in GR86 after dealing with that penalty. Austin Bartlett Chase, he wasn't quite able to keep up with his Itasca Point teammates, but at the very least he's going to get a consistent finish here with 4th, and Peter Moller still making his way around the circuit at the moment. It was a quiet race for the 997, and at the very least he will have avoided damage despite his spin that we caught on the replay earlier. So that ends things for the GR86 and MX5 race. Brett Gardner 0.7 of a second in the end over Maxime David for the GR86 win. Jean-Sebastien Bedard gets 2 no-team cars on the podium. Andrew Sharp and Graham Wildman will finish 4th and 5th, and Sharp will lose that tie for the championship lead with Brett Gardner. Keith Gwinnett, Kevin Berquist, and Jake Cummings are your last finishers in GR86. Logan Carasimo, our only other starter, going for a spin and a crash, was not able to make it back out of the pits with all of that damage he sustained. In the MX5s, meanwhile, only 0.2 between Lincoln Fox and Pat Labrosse, but Lincoln will get enough of a finish to extend his championship lead over Michael Chase, and Austin Bartlett Chase and Peter Moller rounding out the field almost half a minute behind them. That was a very big gap indeed. We will move then into having a chat to our drivers, and the first driver we're going to talk to is, of course, Brett Gardner, who joins us now. A good win there, Brett. Certainly breaking the tie between yourself and Andrew Sharp at the top of the championship standings, but Maxime seemed to have a couple of things to say about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was struggling the whole time, just trying to make sure I kept him behind me. At first, whenever I was behind them, I thought that I was just faster than him, and then once I got around him, I realized that was not the case. We were very much even, so it was entirely had to devolve into racecraft at that point. But it was an absolute blast racing Maxime. I haven't had any issues with him whatsoever. I'm having a blast.
Yeah, it definitely looked like a fun battle for the two of you, but it was on a very cold and foggy track indeed. Obviously, early in the race, it would have been difficult to get those tires warmed up.
Yeah, I don't think I felt the tires actually feel good until about that 4th or 5th lap. Until before then, I kind of felt like I could put the power down and lose the car, and these cars don't have a lot of power. So, yeah, absolutely agree with that.
Well, we go to Long Beach, a street circuit for the third last round of the championship, and Long Beach is notorious for drama. I suppose you'll be hoping to avoid that as well as the concrete barriers.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do love Long Beach. I love any track with walls nearby. So I don't know why. I just feel like I become one with the wall. So hopefully we have a good race next week as well.
Yes, hopefully you don't literally become one with the wall. You've still got a very tight championship lead to hold there over Andrew Sharp. Thanks very much for joining us, Brett, and hopefully get a chance to chat to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Well, Brett Gardner there in our GR86 class, and for the time being, it looks like that's the only driver we're going to have a chance to talk to here. Of course, Mark, Long Beach, the next round. Love this circuit, love the drama that it throws up. It's going to be a bumpy ride around the streets.
Yeah, and I tell you what, Long Beach brings back some fond memories, particularly in the MX5s, because it is just awesome, and it is fun, and it is terrifying all at the same time. Yeah, I think I got a pole position here and was super excited because I think I was confidently faster than everybody at one point, but I got overzealous, and on the first lap of the race, overcooked it into turn one and hit the wall.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of chances to make mistakes around here. Catch us at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time for that, and as well as the next round of Super Formula, which we are going to for the current round as we speak. We're racing at the Hungaro Ring for Precision Racing League Super Formula, one of the only returning tracks from the previous season of this championship, and with the recent announcement that PRL's schedule is going to be changed up for next season, it's looking like this is going to be the last time we see Super Formula racing at the Hungaro Ring, but we're going to have a great race here. It's a very tight and twisty circuit at the Hungaro Ring, and in terms of the championship, well, if you're looking overall, it's going to be very tight, but in the pro standings, JR Williams is holding on beautifully over Manuel Vargas. It is a 19-point gap. Pablo Valenzuela Uribe had a massive crash with JR Williams on the final lap last round at Sebring, and he's only a single point behind his teammate Vargas there for P2, and it remains to be seen whether or not they'll be able to catch up to JR with 4 rounds remaining. Carson Keane a long way ahead of Mark McDonald. Alexander Rivera and Rodrigo Munoz were there last round, and they only have 4 points between them. Daniel Kranifus, unfortunately, with some technical problems for tonight, he will not be racing, and Boris Ovando has not had a single points finish all season. In fact, he hasn't been here since round 1. In the AM standings, Jeff Groff, he is only 2 points behind JR Williams in the overall standings, having taken the overall win last round at Sebring, and he has a solid lead of 16 points over Frankie Brzezowski. Once again, though, Gabriel Hopper, the same situation as it is in pro. Third place in the championship, only has a single point gap to second, but you look behind and it is much closer. Christian Jasper and Blake Ziti definitely within striking distance of Hopper, with Neil Alexander and Nick Dawson-Lathan on equal on points. Same for Cristobal Valenzuela and Hugo Galaz. Brett Poncari up into 10th in the standings there, as SRTE is leading the team's championship with Final Lap Sim Racing Team about 18 points behind them. Go Squadra, Jeff Groff the lead driver in that team. They have a solid gap for third over Backfire Motorsports. Parabola Racing a long way behind as well. It's going to be difficult to make up that points gap, at least at this round. And that is your top 10 in the teams as we find our way into qualifying for PRL Super Formula. Currently, Pablo Valenzuela Uribe is trying to make up for that disastrous finish at Sebring and is currently on provisional pole. JR Williams almost half a second behind. The top 5 incredibly close here.
Yeah, as always, a very tight battle at the top of this pack. And like you had mentioned earlier, Reese, last week, and not even just last week, the week before that too, both Pablo and JR Williams having a coming together at the end of the race. Well, that's going to happen when you're both very fast and fighting for the same spot on a consistent basis. Obviously, no one wants to see, race-ending crashes in this particular series, but it's not any less exciting nonetheless. But for JR to be able to maintain the championship lead so far just is it's really a testament to his ability to be up front that consistently each and every race.
Yeah, JR has been far and away the most consistent competitor this season, and that is why he is in the championship lead in the pro class. Carson Keene is going to set a great time and move himself ahead of Jeff Groff and onto the provisional front row. Gabriel Hopper, meanwhile, in the striking blue machine, going to find his way into P4. At the moment, second in the AM class. There's only 600ths of a second, make that almost 500ths of a second between himself and Jeff Groff for third overall as he makes his way through the final corner, the never-ending final turn here at the Hungaroring. Yellow flag in the final sector. There's a car stopped there off the edge of the circuit. 126.4 for Gabriel Hopper. That will not be an improvement for position. JR Williams, meanwhile, setting another time there, a 1 minute 24.7, and that is enough to put him ahead of everyone else aside from Pablo and up into second place. So for the time being, it looks like Pablo and JR are going to continue their fight here from Sebring, and we're hoping that it has a better end.
Yeah, but it has been a very fun and exciting rivalry to watch and call from the booth. So yeah, looking forward to more intensity and more aggressiveness out of both of these drivers. And yeah, I know for you fans at home, it's exciting, and it's going to be exciting tonight as well.
It is indeed. Blake Ziti was hoping to improve on that lap, but unfortunately he's had a bit of a problem there coming out of the chicane. It looks like that's Neil Alexander who had to let him go there. Ziti currently fourth place, as there's been a big improvement there from Victor Couto up into fifth spot. Let's see if Frankie Brzezowski will be able to make any form of improvement here in the number 14. Lovely sweeping corners here in the back half of the Hungaroring circuit.
Yeah, Frankie currently sitting in P9, coming through the final sector right now into the penultimate corner, then into the final corner. Looks like he gets a good corner exit and maximizes the corner exit onto the curb, which is going to give him a 26.5. Not good enough to improve his position. And actually doesn't look like it's going to count at all.
Yeah, that's unfortunate there. Let's see if Carson Keene will be able to make any improvements here. He's a bit wide coming into the final corner and running a little bit wide again over the curb. The time ultimately being a 35.2. It looks like that'll be an outlap for him. So this will be his next run at trying to take a front row slot away from Pablo Valenzuela or JR Williams. Ziti, of course, putting in some great improvements over the course of the session. Wasn't able to capitalize on the last lap. Again, someone stopped there on the side of the circuit. We're seeing a few cars having trouble here in this qualifying session. It's such a difficult circuit, the Hungaroring. The corners come thick and fast, especially in cars that are this quick, and trying to keep the tires down at a reasonable operating temperature and nail those corner exits, a big part of racing here.
Yeah, you got to be pitch perfect on corner entry, corner exits. Got to maximize your speeds everywhere. It's a game of not even inches, it's a game of centimeters.
Indeed it is, and Blake Ziti did well enough there to elevate himself into third overall. He splits the pro class at the top of the field. Jeff Groff, overall winner at Sebring last week. He was running a distant third when Valenzuela and JR Williams came together and was able to sweep through and take an emphatic victory. We'll see if he's hoping for the same here today. This struggling a little bit for consistency there. He's currently 7/10 off the current pole position, and it's difficult to make big gains like that around a track as rapid and short as this one.
Yeah, you would think for the size of the circuit, it would take longer to get through here, but these cars are just fascinatingly fast around here. And Pablo, meanwhile, has been able to increase his gap over JR by 2/10 to a total of 3/10.
Well, Jeff Groff comes across the line at 125.2, and that's off his fastest at the moment. Mark McDonald, meanwhile, sitting at 25.1, and that'll grant him 3 positions. He puts Kuto, Groff, and Hopper down 1 position per, rounding out 7th, 8th, and 9th. Christian Jasper also makes a big improvement in the 444 up to 6th place, and Cristobal Valenzuela is looking for something more here. A 126.4 is his fastest time, and it looks like he's going to break into the low 126s with that one. 13th place, Neil Alexander down to 14th as a result, and Carson Keane setting another outlap here at the moment. Only 5 minutes remain for you to get your times on the board.
Yep, time is winding down. There is no limit to how many laps they can put in, so every second does count.
Yep, every second indeed. Around such a fast and twisty circuit here. I love this section of the track that King's going through at the moment. That beautiful sweeping run up through turns 5 and 6 and then to the chicane. This is where you slow down, and if you're close up behind another car at this point in the circuit, you're going to be having a lot of aero instability. Carson will be glad that he has some clear air ahead of him. He'll have maximum front grip through this right-hander, one of the most important corners on the track. Over the curb he goes as Mark McDonald moves up to 5th place. Another big improvement into the 1 minute 24 second bracket for the first time. So Carson King just negotiating the last 2 corners now, and the run through the last turn is so important. Do you go in early and stick to the inside all the way through, or do you late apex it for a better run out of the corner? That is the question. I think King doing a little bit of both there as he sets a 125.4. That's unfortunately not an improvement for him, but I think he will stay out for a second hot lap here just to make sure that the tires are up to temperature. Speaking of temperature, it's a pretty warm track out there at the moment, 35 degrees Celsius, so 95 Fahrenheit for those of you in the United States. It's tough to manage tire temperatures when the track is that warm. Obviously, it's better than it would be if it was in the 40s or 50s in terms of Celsius, but yeah, with corners coming as thick and fast as these ones, I think tire temperature is going to be a big factor tonight.
Yeah, tonight the big part, or the big name of the game, will definitely be who can manage their front tires the best. Because like you mentioned, when you're right on the heels of somebody coming through the middle section of the track, as Victor has to make some avoiding actions there. And but yeah, when you're right on the heels of somebody around this track, your tire temps are gonna skyrocket because of all the understeer from all the lack of downforce from the car ahead, just not giving you any clean air.
Yeah, that's why qualifying quickly is so important, and for Uribe at the front of the field, it'll be a good advantage that he gains if he can nail that standing start. Manuel Vargas setting a 28.2 on that lap. He's in the middle of a pack of cars and might be having some problems here as we're on board with J.R. Williams for the start of his next lap. 1 minute and 50 seconds remain on the timer. So now it is crunch time. Can JR grab pole from Pablo Valenzuela Uribe? He needs 3/10 to make it happen.
Is it possible? Yes. Will it happen? I don't know. It's 50-50. He definitely matches Pablo's pace, but these two, week in and week out, have been the top 2 dogs for pole position the last several weeks. And I'm not sure who had pole last week, but I know 2 weeks ago, last time I was here, I believe Pablo was able to eke out the pole position. And yeah, I know it's a great deal of pride between these 2 drivers, especially with the on-track incidents they've had. It's just that one little extra notch under the belt saying, hey, I'm better than you.
Yeah, exactly, and you also get an extra point for pole position with the PRL points system. So qualifying at the front is so important. Victor Couto makes a late improvement to 6th as Williams comes out of the final corner, and that is a 24.8. That's not going to be enough for him to improve here, but 30 seconds remain on the clock, and this being a single race session, you will be allowed to complete your lap after the timer hits 0. So let's see if JR has any more temperature in those tires, any more to play with in his run at provisional pole position. We're not going to see Pablo Valenzuela Uribe back out there to try and respond. He's evidently comfortable with his times at the moment. Gabriel Hopper trying to break further into the top 10. As far as things go, he's currently 6th in the AM class as things stand. So let's see what he can do as the checkered flag flies in qualifying. This will be Hopper's last chance here to gain some positions. 25.2 is the time to beat, and he'll come across the line to set a 124.6.
Wow.
That is good enough for 3rd spot. What an improvement from Gabriel Hopper.
And a celebratory wall smack there just to say, heck yeah. That was a great lap from Gabriel.
Yeah, brilliant stuff indeed. So he'll secure AM class pole position, at least for the time being, and only 100th of a second off J.R. Williams. Frankie Brzezowski then to the pits here. There won't be any need to come into the pits during the race, but worth practicing a pit entry anyway, just in case you have some damage and you have to get that repaired. Well then, Frankie will make his way back into the pits as well, as that is the end of qualifying. Everyone has set their laps, and what a session that was. Really love it. You know, the Hungaroring always brings out the best in drivers, I feel. Such a tight circuit, such a fast circuit as well, with Pablo Valenzuela Uribe taking pole position with J.R. Williams 3/10 behind on the front row. Gabriel Hopper takes the AM class pole alongside Blake Ziti on the front row. Great performance from Ziti there. Carson Keane and Mark McDonald will round out our top 6. Victor Couto and Manuel Vargas are going to start 7th and 8th, with Christian Jasper and last week's winner Jeff Groff starting in P10. Frankie Brzezowski and Nicholas Colander are going to start 11th and 12th. Andrew Ellis and Cristobal Valenzuela are your 7th row. Neil Alexander and Hugo Galaz 15th and 16th. Brett Poncari and Barry Cochran on our 9th row. And the final car to take the start here today will be Rodrigo Munoz for Backfire Motorsports. He'll be hoping for a consistent drive here, try and avoid the first lap dramas, of which there's likely to be many.
Yeah, and the first of those many is likely to be turn number 1, because this is a very long straightaway from the starting grid down into turn number 1. So very good chances for drafting opportunities and 3 wide, 4 wide, possibly even 5 wide situations, as this track is wide enough for it.
Yeah, indeed. The Hungaroring's been through a few changes over the years. Used to be that turn 1 was a sweeping right, much like the final corner is. But in the early 2000s, it was modified to become more of a tight hairpin to aid overtaking. And I'm sure drivers are very happy about that. It does create a longer run into turn 1, as you said, better opportunity for moves. The launch is always a factor, though, in Super Formula, as is those green glowing lights above the airbox. We'll talk more about that in a second as the start is ready to go. J.R. Williams versus Pablo Valenzuela Uribe on the front row, and it's a consistent start between them. Unfortunately, Gabriel Hopper not quite nailing the start. He's under pressure already from Carson Keane and Blake Ziti, as Manuel Vargas in the final lap car behind, making the move on Victor Couto and getting up the inside there. Had to give up a bit of speed at the apex, though. That will put him under lots of pressure coming into the next corner as Uribe and Williams battle hard for the lead. Williams almost had it coming into turn 2.
And after the first sector of the track is complete, everyone making it through clean. No incidents to note as of right now. Mark McDonald did have a little bit of a bog down on the start. He lost several spots from the start, down 4 positions already.
Yeah, so it looks like a bit of a nice clean start so far here at the Hungaroring. Now is the opportunity for drivers to make moves, but Hungaroring is a track where it's often quite hard to pass despite the modifications this circuit's had over the years. Another corner that's relatively new is this one they're coming down to now. This right-hander here used to be a chicane and then a straight run down to the second last corner. A couple of puffs of smoke in the rear of the field. And yeah, despite those modifications, despite how good the racing is we've seen in these cars, I expect overtaking will be rather difficult. JR Williams already on the overtake button. Pablo Valenzuela Uribe on recharge, as both on push to pass is Gabriel Hopper and Carson Keane trying to fight over P4. Gabriel's going to keep that position into the first corner. If you're new to PRL Super Formula, if you're new to Super Formula in general, those green glowing lights above the driver's head are ones to watch out for. You get 200 seconds worth of extra power to use over the course of the race. You have to wait 120 seconds in between applications of it, but while it's on, you can hold it down as long as you like.
And it really does make for an interesting dynamic for these race cars. And honestly, I think the racing would not be nearly as good without it.
Yeah, certainly has made for some fantastic fights over the 2 seasons of this series that we have seen. So let's see now if anyone can get the tires warmed up and get into a rhythm here. Battle continuing on between Keane and Hopper, as there's been a problem for Barry Cochran. Oh dear, that's I'm not too sure where that is specifically. It's somewhere around the middle of the lap. Big problem for him, I think, in the S's section. He's continuing on into the pits. We'll see what happened to him here. He just caught the curb in the wrong way there. A little bit wide on the way out, and just a little bit of a spin up of the tires. So that's the only incident that we've seen so far. But speaking of incidents, Gabriel Hopper running wide at the first turn, losing 2 spots. Carson Keane and Victor Couto now round out our top 5.
Yeah, I think he just carried a little bit too much speed in there, locked up the wheels, which is not going to help you turn any. Fortunately, managed to keep it going. No incidents. But did manage to lose those 2 spots. So that is unfortunate for him, but it is something he can come back from.
Yeah, one thing that I did notice for Gabriel was that he was going very deep into the corners. He was hard on the brakes and having a couple of micro lockups over the course of the first lap, and so maybe this is his car telling him, hey, let's ease off a little bit on the brakes. We want to try and make it to the finish here and get a good position. This is your chance to fight back. Just need to be a little bit easier on the road. No,
Manuel
on the left
Vargas.
pedal, let alone the right pedal for Manuel Vargas. Oh no, he's out of the race. That's such a shame.
Same spot as Barry.
Yeah, I think I think Cochran might have had his incident a couple of corners earlier, but you're right. The exits of the corners in the S's are such an issue for these cars. It's very easy to snap, and Manuel Vargas finding that out the hard way. Just got massively unsettled through the corner, and that's going to be a big blow to final lap sim racing team's points total. Oh man. It just happened out of nowhere. There would have been no time at all for Vargas to react to that. He was a bit wide, then he just got over the bumps and instantly into the wall.
Somehow he managed to get that car to stop before coming back into that long line of traffic. I don't know how that happened, but fortunate for those other drivers around him.
Frankie Brzezowski, meanwhile, makes the move on Christian Jasper, who didn't have a good run through the first couple of corners, and he's wide again, trying his best to take a late apex here. He's going to fall under pressure from Nicholas Colander if he's not careful. There's only 0.8 of a second between those two at the moment. Jasper, obviously losing his 2 spots from there. He was one of the only drivers who was still occupying the position he started in There's been a lot of small moves throughout the field. Most positions gained so far is Andrew Ellis in the number 8. He is up 4 spots to 9th and holding off Frankie Brzezowski very nicely. That last position in the top 10 as Mark McDonald and Jeff Groff trade places in the penultimate corner, and McDonald will round the outside of the final corner to get that move done. That was spectacular. So on board with Jeff Groff, we'll see if he can get things done, try and come back here. He had a really good race at Sebring. It seemed like the bumps of US Army Airfield Hendricks smiled upon him, but the purpose-built technical racetrack at the Hungaroring not quite as nice to him as it has been in previous runnings. So Jeff Groff has got a lot of potential here to get the move done again. It's only the 5th lap of this 32-lap race. No pit stops, of course. It is an out-and-out sprint to the very end, and we're waiting to see how well he's going to manage his fronts, as we've seen. Hopper, meanwhile, has passed Victor Couto back for 5th place. Gabriel doing well there, but Blake Ziti and Carson Keane are a long way up the road now. Gabriel will be hoping that he puts some fast laps in to catch up.
Yeah, and I'm noticing just kind of going through the field here, the same corner that Manuel and Barry had their issues with, a lot of the drivers are doing the same thing, crossing all the way over that curb. And that's just, well, if they haven't noticed already, very dangerous.
Yeah, dangerous indeed. Gabriel on push to pass, same for Victor Couto and Mark McDonald. This is very close fight, it seems, for 5th place at the moment. The top 4 have left each other alone for the time being. There's a full second between Ziti and Keane for 3rd spot, and Pablo Valenzuela Uribe has been driving away from JR Williams as things stand. But JR, you would argue, has been the more consistent of the two over the season, so there's still potential for Uribe to maybe get distracted and make a mistake somewhere along the line. So here comes the fight. Oh, this is going to be interesting. The number 14 of Frankie Brzezowski passing Andrew Ellis on the exit of turn 5. And he'll get it done. Andrew Ellis will fall back behind Christian Jasper as well. Let's see if Jasper, now that he's gotten his pace back, will be able to get it done on Brzezowski.
And this is a great fight between the 3 drivers. Frankie having a great run so far. Swinging out just a little bit wide through that corner. Nobody really in a position to make a move on anyone here at the moment. Through the penultimate corner, coming up to the last corner. And Frankie appears to be pulling away from Christian just ever so slightly there.
Yeah, good last half of the lap there for Frankie Brzezowski. Up 2 positions. Same for Jeff Groff, Andrew Ellis, and Neil Alexander. There's, it's been I mean, if you just look at the way the positions have changed, it seems like the race has been stagnant, but that's been far from the case. We've had quite a few drivers struggling for consistency over the course of these first 7 laps, and they'll have a long way to go here. We're not even a quarter of the way through this race. By the end of next lap, we will be, but it's turning out to be a very long, hard slog for these guys, as it looks like Victor Couto moves back past Mark McDonald and Jeff Groff there, gets up to 6th place, and he'll keep trying to chase down Gabriel Hopper. When Hopper manages to get a good run, he's one of the faster cars out there.
Yeah, that caught my attention too with Victor. It looked like he just had a slight connection issue because he just disappeared for a moment and then reappeared right in front of Mark.
Righto, so Victor Couto with internet problems, it seems, and that won't fill Mark McDonald with much confidence here. McDonald has been present for most of the rounds here, and well, actually no, he's only been present for 2 rounds so far, my apologies, but still 5th in the Pro Class Championship with a solid 86 points to his name. It's a bit inconsistent attendance, but when he has been here, he's been fighting solidly for positions in the top 10. We'll see if he can get this one done on Victor Couto. I don't know exactly if he'll have it in him here to get it done, though, because there's only a tenth or so between them on the last lap. And Victor Couto did set a 26.4 for his quickest lap. He did go a bit faster on the previous lap, but I think he got an off track somewhere because it didn't officially count for his fastest lap. So let's see if he can hold Mark McDonald off here for 6th place. The battle between Blake Ziti and Carson Keane is starting to round up again for 3rd as well. The gap between them only sits at about 0.8 of a second. So there's battles everywhere you look in the field. McDonald running a little bit wide through the penultimate corner, giving up more pace to Couto.
Yeah, and speaking of battles, even though the gap doesn't show it, last lap around, both Pablo and JR setting their best times on lap number 9, and only a difference of 0.2 with JR taking the quicker lap at a 25.3.
Yeah, JR's starting to build the pace up here for an attack on Pablo, and well, Valenzuela Uribe certainly had the pace early on, but remember, J.R. Williams, the picture of consistency. He'll be keeping those tyre temperatures under control. He'll be steadily working his way forward. Just needs to be careful not to overstep his marks any. And if he is close to Pablo, presses him into a mistake, hopefully avoid a repeat of Sebring where they were just too close together to make any difference in the event of a crash.
Meanwhile, currently looking at the battle for P9 between Frankie and Christian. Just under a second separating the two of these guys.
Jasper was winding on the lock very late in the corner there. Obviously, it's one of those turns where you'd like to carry as much speed as possible, and you can be very aggressive with the steering, but it feels like a lot of the drivers today suffering with understeer through those faster sections of the racetrack. Hungaroring's all about compromise. It's all about trying to compromise your way through a sequence of turns in order to get a better exit, because that's where you end up making the time. The times close between Brzezowski and Jasper at the moment, still fighting over 9th spot here, and well, we'll see if there's any difference being taken between these two. A lot of curb usage by Christian Jasper, and slightly wider through the turn there for Brzezowski, but it looks to me like it's going to work out all right between them for the time being. Christian Jasper is certainly had potential for some great results over the course of this season, but again, consistency is key in this series.
Yes, it is, and I want to point that out with Blake Ziti in 3rd, with Carson following closely behind him as well, about 0.8 of a second behind. We've seen greatness out of Blake Ziti as well, but like you said, the consistency just hasn't been there. He's had little errors that's taken him out of races or taken him out of good battles, and it's just really unfortunate. But unfortunately, that's just that's a part of racing. I mean, we're human, right? Nobody's perfect. Yeah. So unless your name is well, I can't even say Pablo or JR because they like to wreck each other apparently.
Yeah, it seems like everyone this season has had some kind of issue at least one round. These cars are obviously popular and very fun to drive, but when you start reaching the limit, they're like any other powerful top-level open-wheel race car. A tiny mistake can balloon into something disastrous. Carson Keane showing us exactly how much speed he'll be carrying through a lot of these corners. I love this view, honestly. It's anytime I see it in a real-world broadcast, I clap my hands with glee, because I love seeing the way the wheel works through these corners, just how much steering angle is required to really get the best out of these cars, how smooth you can be and how bumpy you can be over a lot of those curbs, as Victor Couto is losing spots at the moment. It looks to me like he's still having those technical problems, and it looks like it's it was sticking around a little longer that time. I don't know if Victor Couto might make it to the end of the race if those issues continue there. Keen, meanwhile, a bit wide through the final corner. He's going to lose time to Blake Ziti there, but Ziti, a beautiful run at the moment, currently leading the AM class and 3rd overall. When Ziti's been on it, he's been one of the star drivers.
He really has. He's a very quick, very talented driver. Just like the rest of us, though. Needs to keep those mistakes down to a limit.
Yep. Keep them down. So rapidly reaching the halfway point of the race here, and there hasn't been much of a change in any of the battles that we've seen so far. We're just waiting to see who's the next driver to make some kind of error. The only drama really that we've seen has been Victor Couto's technical problems. And Couto's still embroiled in that fight with Mark McDonald. 3 battles at the moment, and that's cars that are within a second of each other. It's this one with Ziti and Keen, then Couto and McDonald, and Brzezowski and Jasper down for 9th place, still fighting tooth and nail over those places.
And Pablo just ever so slightly opening up that gap on JR. It's now up to about 2.3 tenths. Or 2.3 seconds, excuse me. And it's just gradually increasing. I don't know if JR is just trying to save tire, or if he's just lacking pace in certain corners. But Pablo really making it look easy out there right now. As a big lockup from Carson Keen there, coming into the back corner there.
Yeah, Carson's starting to lose touch with Blake, and JR losing touch with Pablo. So, yeah, I think this is the exact right position for Uribe to be in here at the front. He's putting in consistent fast times, and I mean, you can see from his car behavior that he's not pushing all that hard. I mean, probably would have heard of the issues for his teammate Manuel Vargas in the opening laps, and we'll be taking some lessons from that. This is the corner, or that was the corner that Vargas had his issue at. The fight, meanwhile, between Brzezowski and Jasper, the Go Squadra car starting to bring this gap down at the moment, but was a little bit slower on the last lap. So it remains to be seen if he'll be able to get that pace back and you know, look after the fronts, make sure that you have enough grip in these tires to maximize all of the corners around this place.
Yeah, and that is one of many tricks to mastering the Hungaroring. I don't know if anyone can master it. It is a very technical, very difficult beast to master. I certainly have not been able to, as we see on the screen there with the flashing lights of Christian Jasper on the push to pass, and lifts off of it just into turn 1.
Yeah, making up a little bit of time there on Frankie Brzezowski, but Brzezowski was clearly faster on the previous lap, set a 25.9 versus a 26.2 for Christian Jasper. It's just a case of who's really saving their overtake button for the last half of the race. The drivers have gotten into their rhythm, and they've seen how they are on pure pace alone, and now it's all about picking the right spot to deploy that overtake. Now, considering that you have to wait 2 minutes in between applications, and the lap around here is about 85 seconds long, you're not going to be able to use it in the same place lap after lap. I think, you know, if you apply it coming out of the final corner, you'll obviously get a great run down the start-finish straight. and maybe on the next lap try and use it in the final sector for a little bit of an extra boost of power. Remember though, it's not like IndyCar where the push to pass only lasts until you next lift off the throttle. You can hold it down for as long as you like at a time in Super Formula, so I don't know, maybe they're saving it all up for the end.
Yeah, it's very certainly possible. Meanwhile, Carson Keene has really closed the gap on Blake Ziti ahead. Only about 5 car lengths between the two, it seems.
Yep, here is Carson Keene in the Rookie Esports Pro squad. Hugo Galaz losing a position further down in the field, just losing that spot to Rodrigo Munoz, who now occupies 15th place. And Carson is being very aggressive over the curbs at the chicane, as you have to be in order to get the best time possible. Most of the curbs are quite harsh here at the Hungaroring. It doesn't have as many of those wide, flat curbs that you would expect from a Formula One circuit. Many of them, especially in the middle sector, quite narrow, and they're raised a bit above the racetrack, so how you hit them is really important.
It really is, and I'm watching the difference between Carson and Blake's lines. Blake is missing the apex, or at least has been, and Carson has just been a lot closer to the curbs. As he gets a little tail happy out of the last corner, that's really going to hurt him on the exit speed there, but he's been a lot more neat and tidy on the apexes, and that's what's been allowing him to catch Blake as they go into turn 1 now. And a little lockup from Blake. He knows Carson's coming.
Yeah, he definitely does. There's been a huge crash, meanwhile, for Frankie Brzezowski. Oh, he was embroiled in that fight with Christian Jasper that we were looking at earlier, and that's what happened to him. The same mistake that Manuel Vargas made earlier on in the race, but this time he goes into the outside wall and completely loses the front end of the car. So Frankie Brzezowski will take no further part in this race. Big shame for him. He was on for a solid points finish there, but he'll have to wait now and potentially use that as one of his drops.
And Reese, that is the 3rd car in the exact same corner.
Yeah, so it definitely concerns me. How many other cars are we going to see having problems there at that fast right-hander? Harsh curb on the exit. Oh my God, Carson, yeah. Good recovery, but you want to try and avoid that. Looks like the rear tyres are going to be complaining for a couple of corners now. He'll be glad that he's got a nice long straight ahead of him.
Yes, indeed, and he's getting a little tail happy off the final corner as well. He's just getting back to the power just ever so slightly too early. Needs to calm it down a little bit, get that car pointed straight a little bit more before applying the extra power.
Indeed. Well, the battle between Ziti and Keene still in lockstep. Another one is developed behind for 5th spot. Gabriel Hopper and Victor Couto, they're only separated by half a second at the moment, and it looks like Mark McDonald wants to join the party as well. This is going to be a very interesting fight between these three, depending on how it goes. Gabriel Hopper, of course, fast, but has made a couple of mistakes so far in this race. Remember, on his 1-lap pace, he can get right up there with the top of the field. Just didn't quite nail the start there and had some troubles with the lockups early on in the race. Couto, meanwhile, still suffering those technical issues from time to time. And Mark McDonald taking advantage with a great run on the previous lap. It seemed like he wasn't all that much faster than either of them on the previous lap, but both of them were 0.8 of a second quicker than Gabriel Hopper, so a big swing in this battle here for 5th place.
Yeah, and Victor was catching up to Gabriel as Victor just power sliding through that corner. He is really making these tires angry. And that's just allowing Mark to ever so much get closer and closer as Mark gets a great run out of the final corner.
Yeah, very good run, and while he's on overtake recharge at the moment, in fact, looks like all of them are, so they won't have much opportunity to use that extra power for the time being. A little bit of a wiggle on the exit of the first corner there for Mark McDonald. Need to be gentle coming out of slow corners in these cars. They have a turbo inline 4-cylinder engine producing around 600 horsepower. So when you come out of a turn and you put that power down, you get a really big boost of power as you come up through the rev range, and that can be difficult to manage.
It can be extremely difficult to manage. That is a lot of power to put down. As Mark almost gets it wrong. Oh, he's very loose through the corners.
Oh man, and this is the worst possible place on the circuit to have those kinds of issues because it's corner after corner after corner. You have one slide, you're offline, the tires are overheated, and the issue just compounds until you get to the end of the section. He's lost something like 2 or 3 tenths there.
It almost feels like it takes a half a lap to get your rhythm back in check because it can just keep compounding because especially like you said in that middle section, it's corner after corner after corner in rapid succession. And it just does not seem to want to end when you're having those kind of little bobbles.
Yeah, well, hopefully Mark McDonald will be able to back off and get those tires back under control, as that was a bit of a slide there of the inside rear coming out of turn 1 for, I think that would have been Blake Ziti, as Carson Keene is caught right up to him now. The pressure is on. Can Carson Keene get onto the overall podium? Ziti still leads the AM class, and that's what he's really focused on right now. But remember that both of our classes are competing for the same championship points. It's overall points that are awarded no matter what class you're in. So Ziti doesn't want to lose this position. He wants to try and gain more. Gabriel Hopper and Victor Couto aren't really that far behind. It's only about 6 seconds or so.
Yeah, it's really not that far. One of these drivers has a mistake, and you got 3 cars not terribly far behind, ready to pounce and take advantage. But yeah, Carson looking to make it 3 pro drivers on the podium and kick Blake Ziti off of that podium as an AM driver. But Blake Ziti holding strong here, really, as we've seen before, really does put on a good defense and makes it very difficult for people to get around him.
I'll tell you one thing, I've just looked back at the track temperature and it has gone up since the start of the race. We're now into the final third of the running here at the Hungaroring, and the track is now at 40 degrees Celsius. That's about 105 degrees Fahrenheit. So now the drivers really need to be careful. Those tires are in their prime phase as Mark McDonald has lost a spot there. It looks like, well, is that Victor Couto once again having technical issues? I'm not too sure, but yeah. Basically, the crux of what I'm saying is the tires are already up to temperature. As the track heats up, it'll be a lot easier to overheat them.
Yeah, I didn't even notice the track temp had gone up until you said something. That would definitely explain why these cars are slipping and sliding so much more so now than they were before earlier in this race. Because that track temperature is just going to keep compounding these. Oh, Carson going over that dangerous curb, a little too far for my liking, But yeah, the temperature is just going to keep getting hotter and hotter, and the harder you push trying to catch someone when you're in dirty air, that just might as well just say, get over it, tires, you're going to get hot.
Yeah, indeed, and the tires will respond by saying, oh really? Well, we're going to make you spin then. Yeah. It's such a difficult compromise to make, isn't it? You know,
it really is.
We've both driven on very hot tracks in the past, and we both know how difficult it is to keep those tire temperatures under control. Imagine how difficult it is for the drivers here on such a corner-heavy racetrack as the Hungaroring. Goodness me, every time they get to a corner exit, there's a little mini buttock clench here in my seat. I can't believe how hard these guys are pushing.
Sorry, what was that, Reese? There's a what?
A mini buttock clench.
Oh, Lord.
I gotta be honest, you know, the human body has automatic responses to things like that.
It is very understandable indeed. This is very intense stuff out of these drivers. They are on the edge. And by on the edge, I mean on the edge.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. This battle is continuing to brew between Blake Ziti and Carson Keen. And yeah, man, yeah, Carson, he senses that the move is there. And he just needs to get a little bit closer. Okay, maybe I'll get on the power a tiny bit earlier. No, I can't do that. The track's too hot. The car slides around too much. And he's going to lose a little bit more to Blake Ziti in the midst of all of that. Lap times across the line, 125.5 for Blake Ziti, 126.0 for Carson Keen. And now he's going to have to work on getting those tyres cooled back down for another run at Blake. But can he maintain the pace? Can he stay within range?
Meanwhile, Brett Poncari is in the pits. I will check out what happened here. See if anything happened. It doesn't look like he had an incident. All 4 tires are still on. All the body panels are still on. I wonder if he's just trying to... He did go up on the jack, so I wonder if he's just going for a tire change.
Yeah. Well, there's okay, so... All right, Poncari's one of the drivers that's joining us on Zoom tonight. He's racing in VR, and it looks like he's adjusting something in the car. I don't know exactly what's going on for him there, but there's potential that he didn't put enough fuel in the car to get to the end of the race. Either that, or he's had some kind of other incident there. Remember, there's
just left the race.
Oh man. I'm not too sure what's going on there for Brett Poncari. It might be a real world issue taking him away from this race. Of course, that is always a possibility.
Yeah.
In sim racing leagues, sometimes you just have stuff happening in the real world that takes you away from the action.
Hey Brett, wave to the camera.
Yeah, wonder if he can even hear us. What is he typing? That's interesting. That's a bit of a mystery as to exactly what's happened to Brett Poncari.
Well, if it is indeed what you said, and he did not put enough fuel in the car, that would be game over. He would not be able to add fuel mid-race.
No, yeah, that's one of the things that really sets Super Formula apart from other open wheel championships, apart from Formula One, of course. It's the same as Formula One. You don't refuel. In the middle of the race, as Victor Couto again blinks out of existence, and after a brief stay in the void between dimensions, he comes back with maybe a story or two to tell, but for the time being, still struggling to catch back up to Gabriel Hopper, and Mark McDonald is rounding him up.
Yeah, and it's got to be nerve-wracking if you're Mark McDonald here, because you get ever so closer to that car, and he starts blinking out like he is. I mean, you don't know where he's going to be, you don't know when he's going to blink, and it's just terrifying.
Yeah. It's never nice when you have a blinker in front of you, and I've been the blinker on more than one occasion with my Aussie internet connection. So we'll see how much longer Victor Couto can hold on. Oh, that was a bit of a long one as well. Oh man, I would not want to be Mark McDonald, you know.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the fight between Carson Keen and Blake Ziti continuing on. Should be 11 laps remaining in the race, and actually 11 minutes on the clock right now. I'd be very interested to see if we actually go time certain or not. It's a race time limit of 45 minutes. We've usually been able to complete the full prescribed race distance in that time, but might be a bit borderline here.
Yeah, it could be very close here as far as laps go versus the time. But, I feel like we should have... Oh my goodness, Carson getting loose into the corner there. And I feel like we should have a counter for Carson every time he fishtails the rear end out a little bit. I swear it'd probably be up in the high 30s by now.
Yeah, I think so, and it usually seems to be happening at the same corners, like exit of the second last corner there. It's hard to... Oh, there's another little twitch from there. I was about to say, it doesn't happen at the last corner, but it just did.
Yeah, and that was kind of weird. Blake had a really shallow exit, and now Carson is right on his rear wing going into turn one.
Yeah, this is tight now between these two. Carson taking a 10th out of Blake on the previous lap. So maybe, despite those slides, Carson Keene has been holding on to something with the tyres, and maybe Blake Ziti's been pushing his front tyres too hard. We'll have to wait and see, because, yeah, he was going very narrow in the last corner, maybe compromising his line there in order to straighten out the fronts a little bit earlier. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. The real tell is going to be in this section, see how much Carson Keene makes up here.
Yeah, and Reese, we've been so infatuated with these little short battles, or small battles, I should say. J.R. Williams has completely lost touch with Pablo. He is more than 10.5 seconds behind Pablo and only 5 seconds ahead of Blake.
Yeah, I gotta wonder, is J.R. Williams having some trouble now? 1:25.0 on the previous lap and 24.9 on this one. So it seems like JR hasn't quite lost any of his pace, but Pablo Valenzuela, far and away from what I've been... Oh, hang on. Little move there from Carson Keene at turn 1. Okay, that's the first sign that we're seeing of this battle for third starting to explode. Yeah, I was going to say, I'd been talking up JR as the picture of consistency this season, but it looks like the more consistent of the two has been Pablo Valenzuela Uribe. In this mid-phase of the race, that gap has just ballooned out.
Yeah, and not to take anything away from either one of these drivers, they're both fantastically consistent drivers. Remind you, Pablo had a wire-to-wire incident-free win, 3 weeks ago, I believe. He led every lap, had the fastest lap, had pole position. He had the hat trick, and that was a masterclass of his own. They're both very good drivers.
Yeah, certainly. It looks like on J.R. Williams's 22nd lap, he had an issue of some kind. I think maybe a spin or a slowdown. Oh, it was actually quite a dramatic incident for J.R. Williams at turn 5 and 6 on lap 22 I just saw. We'll keep an eye on this battle for the time being, though, as we might be able to show you what happened to J.R. Williams here. Just getting on the brakes, he caught the grass, massive lockup, bumping over and just avoiding getting into the tire barriers. Oh, that would have been disastrous if there were other cars closer to him.
Holy bananas. Wow, that was nuts.
And so
there
it was for
Victor.
Victor Couto. Spin out of the final corner there for Victor. And he falls back down to 8th place. He's within a second of Jeff Groff, though, so might be able to still grab 7th place at the end here. But the fight's still on between Blake Ziti and Carson Keene, with 6 laps still remaining, 5.5 to be exact, on the ticker.
Well, impressively enough, with that giant jump from J.R. Williams, doesn't appear to have caused him any damage there, as Cristobal, a little bit of a half spin out of the penultimate corner.
Yeah, the tyres are really crying out for mercy, aren't they? It happened for Neil Alexander as well. Goodness me, the rear tyres are absolutely going off now. Has the track temperature increased any? Well, 1 degree.
Yeah,
it's up to
1.
41 Celsius now. But yeah, I think the drivers are just seeing the limit of the life of these tyres now.
Yeah, meanwhile, Carson right now on push to pass. Blake going for the defensive move. Carson going to the outside. Is he going to go for the over-under? No, it doesn't have the run for it.
Yeah,
But
not
they
quite
are
enough space.
Here, still on the push to pass, going inside.
Oh, that was
He's
a big
gonna get
jerk
the
to
move
the
done.
inside. That's lovely stuff from Carson Keene. Finally gets past Blake Ziti. Unsettled him enough through the first couple of turns that he was able to get it done, but Ziti will try and come back at him here. Ziti wants an overall podium. He wants those points, and to be able to work his way further in the AM Drivers' Championship. Remember, Ziti is 5th in the championship in the AM class, and Gabriel Hopper is currently 2nd in AM, is 3rd in the championship. There's only 3 points between them, so if ZT can get this position back, might be able to take the lead of the AM Class Championship. We'll have to wait and see on that, though. But Carson, despite his little micro slides that we've seen before, he geared up the move, he made it, and now ZT's starting to fall off.
Yeah, that was a beautiful move from Carson King to get around Blake ZT. And you're seeing the difference here with Carson running in the dirty air all this time, and now Blake ZT running in the dirty air for the first time in a long time. The gap that has happened here, Blake locking up the right front tire there into turn 1. But Blake just had to take it extra cautiously in the dirty air to not ruin his race.
Yeah, indeed he did. Well, maybe he'll have to just settle for 4th now, as we have 3.5 laps remaining for our leader, Pablo Valenzuela Uribe. JR Williams currently holding the fastest lap of the race, but Pablo's continuing to run times that are very close to that. This is turning into what could be a dominant victory for Pablo, and enough to potentially still pressure JR Williams for the lead of the championship. We still have 3 rounds to go after this one. Remember, the gap for the Pro Championship lead sat at 19 points coming into this round. With the way the point system works out, I don't think that Pablo's going to make up all that much, but all the same, if he can keep those kinds of results up and hope for JR to have some issues in the final few rounds, then he could be a shoo-in for the title. We'll just have to wait and see, though.
Yeah, if memory serves, I don't know the exact gap of points from the finishing positions, but as they finish now, or if they were to finish now, excuse me, I believe it would maybe be like a 5-point closure on JR Williams for Pablo, with the inclusion of pole position. Possibly 6 points if he can manage to get the fastest lap.
Right, let's see what these final few laps are like for Pablo Valenzuela Uribe at the front of this field. What a drive it has been from him, taking pole position, and well, he was under some pressure from JR early on, but he managed to hold off that pressure, and now he has the luxury of a 10.5 second gap at the front of this field, and that's at the point where, oh dear, who's that's had a problem? Looks like Hugo Galaz. Yeah, it was Hugo Galaz, and he's got some problems with the front wing there. Well, basically what I'm trying to say is Pablo can afford to back off a little bit now, but hopefully he can avoid incidents like this. Galaz just grazing the Armco, trying to get back going, and that has warped his front wing some.
Yeah, meanwhile, Victor has run down Jeff Groff for P7, trying to get that Hello Kitty car back on its recovery drive.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time for Victor Couto to see if he can get this 7th place back. Jeff Groff up 3 spots, Victor Couto down 1. If Victor can at least finish in the position he started in, that would be a good night for him, especially with the internet dramas that he's been having. So let's see how this battle works out with 1 minute and 20 seconds remaining on the clock. I think we are going to be able to get all 32 laps completed in that time. Our leader is halfway around the lap with 1 minute to go. Yeah, he'll cross the line with about 30 to 40 seconds remaining on the clock. So time is now running out for Jeff Groff and Victor Couto. Gabriel Hopper and Mark McDonald still reasonably close for P5, and Mark will be hoping for a mistake from Gabriel in the last couple of laps. If he can avoid making mistakes himself, that was way off there at the right-hander, where we've seen so many cars have issues tonight. Pablo Valenzuela Uribe has already taken the white flag with 30 seconds remaining on the timer, and
he's using push-a-pass.
Yeah, still using push to pass. He's trying to grab the fastest lap, and he took it on the last lap. 124.4 is now the time to beat. So if so, JR needs to pull out all the stops now to try and overcome that and stop Pablo from getting that extra point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a great drive from Pablo Valenzuela Uribe. He just came here to the Hungaro ring ready to fight, ready to just drive consistently out the front, and that's exactly what he's done. He hasn't had any problems over that very harsh curve that's taken so many other drivers for a big ride today. After this, it'll be one corner to go, rounding these never-ending final corners at the Hungaro ring, the twisty circuit from the 1980s first F1 race behind the Iron Curtain. But Pablo Valenzuela Uribe will take victory here in the seventh round of Super Formula, sixth round, sorry, and will narrow that championship gap to JR Williams. The fight's still on between Gabriel Hopper and Mark McDonald, and it looks like Gabriel's going to have just enough of a gap to hold on here, just needs to take it easy through the final corner. Blake Ziti slowing down a bit more on the final lap as Carson Keane just drove away from him for third. And oh no, what's happened here to Victor Couto? He's coming into the pits on the final lap. That's interesting.
He hit his incident limit. He's got a black flag.
Oh no, and considering he wasn't able to serve the penalty during the race, there's potential there that he might lose further places. Because if you can't serve it, while the race is still on, iRacing's going to add time to your race after the results are made official. So that's going to be a big shame for Victor Couto. A lot of drivers were struggling for consistency today. Rodrigo Munoz and Neil Alexander will be the last two drivers to get to the finish here. And wow, another very entertaining race. PRL Super Formula with the last few things being sorted out in the background. Yep, iRacing has demoted Victor Couto down to 12th place thanks to that late black flag. So, our results then. Pablo Valenzuela Uribe, a dominant victory by 10.5 seconds over JR Williams, and got the fastest lap as well as pole, so that's 2 extra points in hand for the number 23. Carson Keane will round out our podium with Blake Ziti taking the AM class win in a very good drive indeed. Gabriel Hopper holding off Mark McDonald for 5th overall. Jeff Groff and Christian Jasper finishing together for Go Squadra. Andrew Ellis and Nicholas Colander rounding out the top 10. It was a very quiet race from the 973. Rodrigo Munoz and Victor Couto 11th and 12th, with Neil Alexander and Cristobal Valenzuela the last drivers to finish on the lead lap. Hugo Galaz, the other backfire car, had some issues along the way to finish a lap down, and we have retirements from Brett Pancari, Frankie Brzezowski, Manuel Vargas and Barry Cochran. Once again, drivers at the rear of the field struggling in PRL Super Formula. But with that, we can jump in for a chat with our winner, Pablo Valenzuela Uribe. Congratulations once again, Pablo. Great victory for you, helping to close that championship gap to JR.
Hey guys, good night. Yeah, I hope we can get back together this eventful season. Has been great. Anyways, for me at least, with the team, with Manuel, we have been a very strong and consistent car. Well, the other things that have happened are just I don't know, part of the races. I think so. I'm pretty happy to get another race win, and hopefully waiting for the next races to the end of the championship.
Yeah, indeed. Hungaro Ring was a bit of a problem for the tyres, wasn't it? It was a pretty warm track out there, and with the amount of corners around this place, you must have been struggling slightly, at least, to maintain that cool tyre temperature.
Yeah, you're right. Dungarroring is pretty technical track, a very small track even. There's only one line kind of to be in race. It's pretty hard to get a right setup. I have a nice setup. This race comes from the season, the past season. So I have a pretty solid base. Try to work in that. The issue was, I think here always is the traffic and being together with the other guys. But in the race wasn't that the case. The car works perfectly in the race. Had a little bit of wear in some moments, but the car was great, really. Nothing to say there.
Do you think that you'll have the same tire issues at Mugello the next round of the championship? That's fast corners all the way through and not much time to rest.
Yeah, I think you're right. Mugello is something similar to Spa or that kind of trucks that are very mid to high speed corners. So will be a great issue there, the tire wear and the driving inputs. They're pretty important in this car.
Well, another great result on the board for you, Pablo. Thanks very much for joining us, and hopefully chat to you again after Mugello.
Thanks, guys. Let me send some greetings to my team, all the guys in Final Lap, Manuel that have a issue today, and all the guys in iRacing Chile that are always competing in other categories. To my family, of course. All the family.
Indeed. Pablo Valenzuela Uribe, always great to have him here in the commentary box with us. And second place mark was JR Williams, who had a couple of big frights over tonight's racing.
Yeah, JR is here sitting in the booth. Congratulations on second place.
Yeah, thank you. I would say one big fright.
One very big fright. Do you need new underwear?
Nah. Although this was my first VR race in this car ever, and yeah, that was something. I'd already looked to the inside, and I guess I tracked out a little bit. And as soon as I felt the grass, I just straightened the wheel and tried to keep it out of the bowl.
Well, that was a very frightening ordeal for us up in the booth. We thought that it was game over for you when it happened, but fortunately for you, you managed to keep it out of the wall ever so slightly and finish where you did. Overall, did you just not have the pace that Pablo had? It looked like you were just like maybe a tenth or two slower a lap, or were you just trying to save tires early on?
He's always fast in the beginning, and then I'm usually a little quicker in the middle part. But I mean, it wasn't my quicker in the middle part wasn't enough today. So I mean, even if I didn't have the big oopsie, I probably still would have finished 2 or 3 seconds behind him. But I honestly at this point I just wanted to finish a race after the debacle last week and getting spun into the first corner of the last lap the week before. So I'll take the finish.
Yeah, it's always important to finish the race there, JR. And before we hop out of here, do you have anyone you want to give a shout out to for your success tonight?
Not for my success, but I just want to give a shout out to Martin Crisp and his family. I know they're going through some tough times, and I hope he's able to make a full recovery. And just wanted to send all the love from PRL to him.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate that. Definitely sending some love to Martin Crisp and his family and friends. Hoping for a speedy recovery. And well, JR, next week is Mugello. Are you looking forward to that race at all?
I don't know. It was fun in the GT3. We'll see. I'll give it a hard we'll see.
Well, we can't ask for too much more than that. But again, JR, congratulations on P2, and thank you for stopping by to have a chat with us.
Yep, thank you guys.
Great stuff from JR Williams, another consistent podium finish, and the winner of the AM class is here with us as well. Blake Ziti joining us once again this season. Good race there for you, Blake. You've had a lot of pressure put on you by Carson.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a really fun race. He kept me on my toes the whole time, Carson. And I really wanted that that podium so bad, but hey, he drove great, so can't hold it against him.
Yeah, it seemed like with the track temperature steadily climbing through the race, tire management was a big factor. How was it feeling for you?
Well, that's exactly it. I think it was like 6 or 7 laps to go. Came into the last turn and just got enough wheel spin where I almost spun it into the wall. I had to completely let off, and from there I was like, let me just manage the race and do the best I can to finish here.
Yes, indeed. You had a lot of potential for big points today. Of course, coming into this round, you had a very tight fight with Brzezowski, Hopper, and Jasper. So finishing ahead of all of them here at this round will certainly give you a good points boost.
Yeah, definitely. That's the goal here, is just to, obviously finish in front of my competitors as best I can, and finish the race is is definitely key. So there we go.
Yeah, indeed. Consistency is key, as I've said a few times tonight. Well, congratulations on the AM win, Blake, and hopefully Mugello smiles on you as well.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Blake Ziti, AM class winner there for SRTE, who will likely continue to lead the team's championship coming out of this round. Of course, Mark, we do go to Mugello for the next round of the championship, and then we only have 2 rounds to go at Motegi and Zandvoort. 3 fantastic tracks to end off what has been a scintillating schedule.
Yeah, it's been really great this season, and like you said, it's coming down to it. 3 races to go with Mugello coming up next. The points are tightening up with Pablo trying to get ever so closer to JR for that championship fight, and it's going to be fun to watch. Don't want to miss it, guys.
No, certainly not. Once again, broadcast starts at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time this day next week, Thursday nights, at the Precision Racing League. GR86 and MX5, of course, on the ticket first to end with Super Formula. Thanks very much for joining us, everybody, wherever you may be in the world. We appreciate your patronage here on RaceSpot. I'm Reese Gardner, Mark Kalin with me in the comms box, and Hugo Luis bringing you these live pictures. We will see you next time.